Greetings, fellow Gears, and welcome back to the COG Command Center. I am your host, as always, Suda, and today I have a very special episode for you guys. Today we're going to be talking about Hivebusters #1 and what I think about it. Now, Gears of War 5 has been out for a while, and I've been loving Escape, so I kind of wanted to go back and actually read the comic book. It's kind of surprising I just didn't have a chance to read it, and my local comic book store just didn't have it. I actually had to order it specially to get. It's kind of weird because this book's kind of been delayed a couple times. Like, I remember it was announced back in March. We still haven't gotten issue #2. It's supposed to be coming out next month. So I kind of wanted to actually read the comic, also compare it to the game now that it's out, and see, is it good? Is it bad? What do I think about it? Because for me, Gears comics are a little hit or miss. Gears novels are much more consistent in how they're tonally structured. Well, maybe because most of it was because it was written by Kieran Travis, and so the last one that just came out, that's another separate video I plan on doing, talking about that book. When it comes to comics, comics are interesting because originally they were produced by DC, now this is IDW, and I really did enjoy Rom Shadow. Rom Shadow is a very, very good comic. Looks good, it feels good. Now, when it comes to Hivebuster, it has the makings of a good comic. We are slowly getting into it. We only have issue #1, so we're going to try to see if does issue #1 catch the reader, or are they going to be going with a bang? Well, the comic is written by Curtis Weeb. He actually also wrote Rom Shadow, and it's drawn by Alan Kwan. And for the most part, it works. The problem, though, is that I was being really distracted, not by the text, but by some of the illustration. I think Alan Kwan, he's really good on the visual sense and great environmental and background art, but when it comes to some of the panels, there's some just straight up like ugly artwork. What I mean by that is like some of the characters and how they're drawn, especially Lonnie, does not look good in certain panels, and it was like really distracting. Otherwise, when it comes to showing vistas and having the full page spreads, it really does work. I think some of the best parts of this comic are the action and also the monster designs. When you get to the Hivebusters and you look at Mac, Lonnie, and Keegan, it kind of like drops off a little bit in quality. Same as with when you see Hoffman, he kind of looks like Boris Karloff in The Mummy. He just looks really decrepit and old. I mean, I guess that's the point, but like, he looks like he's just about to, like, you blow on him and his wheelchair is going to fall over and he's going to die. So what's the story of this book? Well, primarily what the story is, it's introducing us to the characters. We are introduced to Mac, Lonnie, and Keegan, and they are going on a Hivebuster run, meaning they get snatched up by snatchers and they are implanted in the hive and they're supposed to wake up, and they're going to plant a bomb that's called venom, and they're going to melt the hive through a biological means rather than going through their front door, because that would be utter suicide. Now, the things that I like about this is actually kind of the dream sequence stuff with Mac, because he's coming to terms with his village being attacked by the swarm and how they can all see his dream. I think that part's actually really fun and interesting and clever because we don't see that in the game. We don't see any of these weird dreams. I think the cutscene works really well for introducing it in the game. Here, I like that you do have dreams. They even allude to it in the game, but here you see it in how weird and trippy they are. Hopefully we get more of these in other issues, because I like the idea of the dreams and kind of them being connected, so we can get some backstory more. Maybe this is a great way to surface into, okay, this time we have Mac's perspective of what he dreams about. Next, maybe we might get Lonnie, we might get like a flashback and her weird cerebral feelings, and then we'll get to Keegan and his regrets as being an Onyx guard on Azura. There are things like that are set up that I'm really excited to see, though some of the stuff just doesn't make sense, I guess, in the proper scheme of things, because you already have to assume all the stuff. Maybe because I've played Gears 5 Escape, and I kind of, if you read the character bios, they give more backstory to them. But here, when it comes to it, you're introduced to Mac more in the first issue, but even then you just know the simple things, like, oh yeah, my family has been taken by the swarm. We get that just if you allude to it, or you assume that's what happened, and that the whole ending of this comic is you're going to go back to his village, and you're going to explain what happened to Mac and his family. That stuff is cool. We get a little bit of Lonnie, and we talk about Pahanu, and we talk about her grandfather lived on Pahanu, but she didn't, and that she was in prison. A lot of questions are proposed, and that's fine. Even with Keegan. Actually, Keegan in this is kind of the non-character. It's kind of funny. He's supposed to be the leader of the Hivebusters, but in the comic, he's just there. The most thing he complains about is the dream where he's wearing a terrible shirt. Yeah, that's something that happens. We're introduced to Tak, who is like the Raven pilot. Though, is he related to Bytalk from the comics and also the expanded universe? Who knows? He looks cool. Hopefully he's a playable character in Gears 5. I'd like to have a Raven pilot finally. For me, I'd always wanted to get Gil or Soratoki. Those are some of the Raven pilots that are in Gears, and I think it's cool that we have someone drawn at least. He looks like a Hivebuster, so maybe that might be something that might be popping up soon. Who knows? Overall, did I like this comic? Yeah, I was engrossed by it cover to cover. I think it does have some great action. The cool thing about it, though, is if you look at it prior to Gears 5 being announced and Escape being announced, because this comic came out before they even announced it at E3, was that everything, all the mechanics of Hivebusters are actually in play here. The only thing that isn't is during this comic, they have to get out of the hive just by ropes, whereas you have to run out of a door and close it in the game. For me, I enjoy that creative endeavor. You can have those creative liberties because you're setting it up as a comic, not a game. They're two separate mediums. And for me, I think it works. The one thing that I was just laughing about is in the comic, you have 2 minutes before the Venom kicks off, and in the game, you have a minute. Maybe that might be something that gets pushed up in the comic. Who knows? But at least the actual mode and the spirit of the mode is in the comic in the first issue. And you even get some great backstory. There's a lot of great things about this. Some of the character design isn't the best, but this is a first issue. Hopefully in the next issue in October, we get some more to it, because I'm actually looking forward to seeing what's happening next, what's happening with Mac, what's happening with Lonnie. Keegan is a non-character at this point, so maybe we'll see some more about him. Though it's kind of weird because on Amazon it says that the trade paperback is supposed to be coming out in March, so a whole year. So we'll see what happens. I can't wait to see this run. Should you buy it? For me, I spent $3 on it. It's a good 20-page book, nice and hefty, and it had a lot of action. If you like gear stuff, you'll enjoy it. There's some nice lore stuff, and it's one of those where you can read it. I say for me personally, I'm going to read issue 2, but if you don't like that, get the trade or just wait. If you're a Gears fan, you'll enjoy it. If you're a comic fan, maybe not so much. Because there's a lot more options of books, but this was a very solid book, has some great action, has some great character moments. The drawings can be much more desirable if you want like the weird Lonnie stuff, though the creature designs are amazing, and when they have background art, the backgrounds in these are actually really fun. When they're a whole issue, they actually really pop, they're vast, they feel Gears-like. That's the most important thing of getting that Gears more aesthetic, because Gears has always changed. And now Gears 5 has a very certain aesthetic, and I think they capture that really, really well in this comic. Otherwise, I say check it out. Hopefully your comic book store has it. If not, just ask your comic book store to order it, or get it online, or get it in Comixology. Well, thanks guys for watching another amazing episode of the Cog Command Center. I am your host as always, Suda, and I hope you guys have an amazing day, and let's keep those gears turning, guys. See ya!